Imagine, the year is 1983, and you are a Soviet military officer. 1983 is a very dangerous time to be, well, on Earth. The Cold War is not feeling very cold. Tensions between the United States and the USSR are extremely high. The messages from politicians and the media sound like, a nuclear war would be terrible. We need to avoid it at all costs. But the Americans seem like they almost want it to happen. We need to make it seem like we're willing to do it too, just to keep those crazy capitalist bastards from trying anything. And both sides are quite successful in convincing the other that they're willing to push the button. Maybe too successful. NATO has deployed nuclear missiles in Western Europe that can hit Soviet targets within 10 minutes. And the USA is running what it calls psychological operations, which involves flying large fleets of aircraft almost into Soviet airspace and then turning back at the last minute, with the goal of provoking a Soviet response so that they can gather intelligence about how the early warning systems work, what the protocols are, how the Soviets will respond to various scenarios. In April, the most powerful naval fleet ever assembled converges in the North Pacific, again trying to provoke the USSR into reacting, to learn more about their defenses. Then, on September the 1st, a South Korean airliner flies over prohibited Soviet airspace and is shot down. The American President Ronald Reagan appears on television, calling it a massacre and a crime against humanity that must not be forgotten. The media on both sides portray the other side as the aggressor, as itching to start a nuclear war. The relationship between the USA and the USSR is well known to you. It's a big part of your job. You are in charge of a secure military facility near Moscow, a facility that's tasked with managing a new, state-of-the-art system of satellites orbiting the Earth 24 hours a day, looking for the telltale infrared signature of a nuclear missile launch. It's the 26th of September, around midnight. Your job is important, but it's also very boring. Suddenly, all of the computers jump to life. They've detected a missile launch from the United States. Sirens, flashing lights, everybody's out of their seats. The word START flashing on the screen in big red letters. You're the commanding officer, so you tell everyone to get to their positions and await your orders. What are your orders? Well, you know the protocol, you helped write it. Your job as the commanding officer in this facility is, in the event of a launch detection, to verify that the report is accurate and then pass it on up the chain of command. So you do your job. First, you make sure that the computer's working properly. You have the technicians run through a set of test procedures designed to verify that the system isn't malfunctioning. Secondly, there's also a backup system, which involves human beings sitting in front of monitors and looking at images from these satellites. So you ask them to confirm the launch. They come back and say, we don't know. The sun is setting over the USA. Half the image is bright, half is dark, and the place the launch is meant to have happened is right on the terminator between night and day. It's very difficult for us to see. We can't see the missile, but if it was there, we probably wouldn't be able to see it either. We can't confirm or deny. Then the computer room gets back to you. They say there's no malfunction in the system. Everything is working as it should be. All of the tests on 30 levels have passed. The system's alerts come with an associated confidence rating, and this report has confidence level maximum. The computer operators tell you this is a legitimate detection. Your job is now unambiguous. The protocol is clear. The system has confirmed a launch. Now your job is to report that up the chain. What do you do? This is all the information you have. You have the computer system. It's telling you there's a launch with maximum confidence. You have the visual units who are telling you that they don't know. There's no way to get any additional information. The next thing you can know about it will be when Soviet ground-based radar stations pick up the incoming missiles, which will be just a couple of minutes before impact, much too late to do anything about it. The clock is ticking. What do? You know that because of the heightened state of alert that the system is at right now, the Soviet policy is launch on warning. This means that the USSR will launch a retaliatory strike without first waiting for missiles to actually hit. By the time nuclear missiles are striking their targets, they'll be destroying infrastructure, destroying your communication systems, destroying your ability to coordinate a retaliatory strike. If you don't react decisively and immediately, you don't react. So the system is set up to retaliate as soon as missile launches are detected. Mutual knowledge of this fact is the only known defense we've got. So you know that if you call in a verified missile launch, it will almost certainly start a global thermonuclear war. What do? You don't have much time to think. And while you're doing it, the system registers another launch. A second missile is detected, again with maximum confidence, and again the visual units can't confirm or deny. Before you can decide what to do, another missile appears, and another, and another. 5 missiles show on your screen. What do? This is, of course, a true story, and the man in this scenario was Stanislav Petrov. And what Petrov does is he stops and thinks. He thinks something like, it could be a mistake, but this satellite system is extremely sophisticated and carefully designed and tested, so a malfunction is very unlikely. On the other hand, I don't think the USA really wants a nuclear war. They might launch a preemptive nuclear strike against us, but that seems unlikely. And if they did want to attack first, wouldn't they throw everything at us? An attack that only uses 5 missiles is possible, but again unlikely. He weighs up the probabilities. He picks up the phone and, contrary to protocol, he calls it in as a system error. False alarm. There are no missiles, he says, staring at the 5 missiles on his screen. And in the facility, they wait. They don't have to wait long. ICBMs are fast. They wait to hear the radar stations detecting these incoming missiles. And a few minutes later, when the time comes, the radar stations detect nothing. It was a false alarm. It would later be discovered that the satellite system was confused by sunlight reflecting off high-altitude clouds. By using his head, by thinking, by not following the protocol, Stanislav Petrov single-handedly prevented hundreds of millions of human deaths, the destruction of all of civilization, effectively the end of the world. Some of you probably will have heard of him. Some of you probably will not have, because this whole incident was somewhat embarrassing for the Soviet Union. It was embarrassing that their satellite system had failed. It was embarrassing that all of their sophisticated engineering had to be saved by one individual person's judgment. And it was probably embarrassing that one of their military officers deliberately went against protocol. Anyway, Petrov could not be rewarded without his superiors being punished. So Petrov was not rewarded. Instead, they told him off for not filling out his paperwork about the incident properly. And the whole thing had to be kept secret for 10 years. He couldn't even tell his wife what happened before she died. And he retired to live alone on his pension, unsung, until relatively recently. Stanislav Petrov died this year, age 77. He actually died back in May, and we didn't learn about it until this month because nobody's really keeping in touch. There may come a day when people who sing or act or play sports aren't as famous as people who literally save the entire goddamn world. There may come a day when people who win wars are not as respected as people who prevent wars. That day is not today, but maybe we can work towards it. Petrov rejected the idea that he was a hero, but I disagree. I think he's a hero to everyone who values thinking for yourself, not buying into the hype, not being distracted by the noise, the media, anyone who values trying to see things as they really are. I think he's a hero for everyone who values trying to actually do your job to the best of your ability, rather than blindly following the procedures you've been given. And I think he's a hero to anyone who values not destroying the world, which I think is something we can all get behind. So today, September 26th, the anniversary of his momentous decision, I'll be celebrating Petrov Day. The traditional way to celebrate Petrov Day is to not destroy the world, and I hope you'll all join me in that. And this Petrov Day is an unusual and historic and sad one. The first Petrov Day with no Petrov in the world he helped to save. So let's try to learn from him. Let's try to create a world with more people like him. Let's try to survive this century, because we still have vast arsenals of nuclear weapons on a hair trigger for some stupid fucking reason. And that might not even be the worst of it.